Hey there YouTube, Doc's Motorcycle Service. Rawr, 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 rawr. Got a little cup of coffee going here. It is Friday. This is going to be video 5, if my memory serves me correctly, into the Hot Donna stripped down series. Not going to bore you to death with a lot of this stuff. For everybody that's keeping up, Donna is in pieces. We've got her farmed out everywhere, getting stuff done. And in the last video, we talked about the rear brake caliper mounting bracket, and we ordered one of those. So real quickly, I want to tie up a couple of things and then move forward. Because this is Friday after we dropped the frame off Monday evening, and the frame is back on the lift. Oh my God. Anyway, let's talk about 3 other things real quick. If you own a motorcycle and if you're on this channel, you're either here for the entertainment value or you're here to save money and learn how to turn some wrenches yourself. So with that said, I want to show you something. And I've mentioned this before in a couple of other videos, and if you're following along on the channel or if you've gone back and looked at some of the other videos, you know I'm a big believer in a owner's manual, a service manual. These things, they're a wealth of information. They have pictures. Sometimes the pictures aren't that good because you're working on a bike like Hot Donna that was built in 1986. Well, this service manual, not this one, but the previous printings of this service manual were based off pics that were made in 1986, and sometimes they get a bit cloudy. You can go online and find some better pics, but I'm telling you, if you're going to work on something and try to understand it, this is a wealth of information. And a little tech tip real quick. When looking at the wiring diagrams in the back, this can be confusing. I mean, you can really make your head twist around and explode if you're trying to understand this. If you're working on something in this book specific to the, let's say, the wiring system for the starter, my suggestion, and I've done this in the past, is instead of looking at all of this, hand draw the map of the starter and the solenoid and the battery, and everywhere it connects in this wiring diagram, draw those areas, then come back with colored pens or pencils and draw out the diagram specifically for what you're working for, because it will take all those wires and condense it down to about nothing. It makes it a lot easier to see. So get you a service manual. The other thing that we're going to talk about today is the new caliper mounting bracket. Well, it's not new, but it's new to us that we got in. That came in yesterday. And we're also going to talk about the seat and having it updated, modified, if you will. Tech tip. When you're working on a project as large as this, keep in mind that you are working on this project right here, this part of the project. But at the same time, this will be your next project, and this is going to be your last project or the third project. Order the parts for all of them at the same time. Because keep in mind, right now, stuff is delayed because of COVID-19. I'm ordering parts on Monday, and I'm not getting them until Friday. Hopefully they'll come in today. But the key thing is you start like right here, and you wrap up everything that you need to have for this one, and then look at this one and look at this one over here, and order these parts. Because it's going to take you a week or so to get these in. It makes no sense to complete this project and then go over here and start ordering parts for this project and then wait until you get down here to do this. Have your stuff coming in. By getting it in early, it gives you a couple of options. One of them is to make sure that you can get it and be ready to move right on to that next project. The other opportunity it gives you is to look at them and make sure they're right. And if they're not right, then you can send them back. Well, guess what? If you got wrong parts for this center project and you had to send them back, well, these parts on this one over here are now coming in and arriving, so you may be able to do some stuff with that one as well. So that's just a little tech tip. It's like shooting 9-ball pool. You're always looking 3 shots ahead. Working on major projects, that's how you want to do this. All right. Well, here is our replacement. It is not new. Rear caliper mounting bracket. Here is the original. They matched up really good. Everything is as it should be. We're zoomed in kind of tight here, but you'll note that these rub marks, which were the concern for us on the on this one when we took it off, there is no indication of that here. There's actually a nice high ridge through here. There's some dust in there, and I'll take some pictures to put up here in case the video did not turn out very well. Real happy with this piece. We're going to get this off to the chromer today along with the other 2 pieces and get that moving forward. The last piece I want to go over before we get on to the frame. It's right here. I'm touching it. So if you do not have a comfortable ride on your sled, on your motorcycle, you're not going to be very happy. You want to have a seat that is going to get you 200, 250, 300 miles down the road without any complaints. The rider has told me that when he sits down on it, the part of his buttocks that normally lands right here, when he just naturally gets on the bike, it hits about right here. These ribbed edges here, he's telling me, and I can see how those, I mean, gosh, I'm mosey. Can you see that? I can see how that would cut into the inner part of your leg. So he has asked me to take this to the old boy and ask him to move this back about an inch, to chop it flat so you have more lumbar support as opposed to a scoop. And he says that he really likes the studs and the conchos on the side. So he said in here, tell the guy to do what he wants to do. If he wants to do something special, but just keep it all black. Look at it and make sure it's good to go. So we're going to drop this off today along with the new mounting bracket and the other pieces of chrome and get moving with that. So I have alluded to the frames right here. I'm pretty impressed with it. I'm making my heart thump here. It turned out really good. So we dropped it off, I guess it was Monday afternoon. They called Wednesday night, said it was done. I'm like, okay. So rode over there and picked it up, and as you can see in the pictures, I took some pictures there and on the way home because the lighting in their lobby was better than mine. But as you can see, I mean, this thing is shiny. My God, look at it. It's like, I can't describe it. I can't describe how satisfied I am with the way this thing turned out. And it was done in, and now you're probably seeing some pictures now of the pictures I took here at the house. And in one of them, you can actually see my cell phone reflection in the frame where I'm taking the picture of the top. And you probably already saw the picture of the one on the way in, riding in the back of the truck. I mean, it's just shiny. It's unbelievable shiny. This is ink black. And there's different degrees of black, and this is ink black. Ink black is supposed to end up the shiniest. So let's go ahead and get the camera off the tripod and take some pictures of it right here. So we'll just start from back here and move forward. I'm telling you, I'm quite impressed with how this thing turned out. I mean, it's shiny. I mean, you can see the light reflecting from the clock right there in this thing. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's something. And it's smooth. I mean, it's smooth as glass. With the exception of the bolt holes here, and everywhere else, because they plug those because this is a powder coating. This is a lot thicker than paint. It's a lot durable than paint. The frame has been sealed except in these areas where bolts go. And they have to plug these off. And I'll take some tight pictures of these, but everybody knows what a bolt hole looks like. Because if they had sprayed the material in here, then it would have lessened the inside diameter of the hole and filled up the threads, and now the bolts wouldn't go in. That would be a very complicated process. But I mean, as you can see, this thing looks great. But again, and I'm going to try to do an electrical system video after this one to help you understand why some of this motorcycle powder coating needs to be removed. But in a nutshell, your battery sits in here inside the oil tank. The negative battery terminal comes out and mounts right here to the frame. At that point, if your positive cable touches the frame anywhere, you're going to get a spark, because that's going to close the circuit. So rear fender light has one wire running to it, and that's the power wire. It doesn't have two wires going to it because the bulb is screwed into a socket that's made into a metal fixture that mounts on the fender, which is metal, and the metal fender is mounted to the frame, which is metal, and gets ground through that ground negative terminal going to the frame. That's how it completes the circuit. Does that make sense? I'll do a little demonstration for you in the electrical video, but there's a lot of stuff on here that has to be grounded. The battery's going to have to ground to the frame, so the voltage regulator that mounts to the frame up here is grounded. And then you have, or I'll take that back, this is where your ignition module goes. Your voltage regulator mounts to a mount right here underneath where the oil filter goes. But because this is powder coated, it's not going to make a good connection. Hey there, YouTube. Alright, so it's not Friday anymore. Was getting ready to get started on removing some of the powder coat from those electrical areas that we had talked about where connections and stuff were going to be made at. And I don't know, I got a mental block. Working the first time with a powder coated frame, actually the first time starting from a frame going up, you know what I'm talking about. You just get a block. Something slows you down. Intuition, experience, something like that. A lot of the stuff that I was hearing didn't make sense. Everybody was saying everywhere that on the frame that you're going to have something mounted electrical, you need to go in there and you need to scrape off some stuff, and you need to do this and you need to do that. And so the frame will conduct electricity. But then I got to thinking, well, the frame comes from the manufacturer painted. I don't see anywhere the frame's been scraped on other bikes that are painted and they're still making their connection. So it bothered me for 2 or 3 or 4 days until I actually got a hold of some people, and not necessarily the answer I was looking for, but an answer that I felt like was believable. And I want to share that with you right now. I'll take some pictures of this hole, but this is a pass-through hole. There's no threads in it. This is a threaded hole. A bolt will go into it and tighten up and stay there. A bolt will not stay in this hole unless there's a nut behind it that it tightens up to, and even then it's going to move around. This is not going to conduct electricity because there's nothing to keep the bolt steady. It might, it may, but the threads inside this hole that are bare metal will conduct the electricity. So if we're mounting something to this, and the mounting holes are what grounds it to the frame, and the bolt comes in contact with the metal in the hole of the mounting bracket, and then in here it's grounded. So at this point, all these areas for the motor mounts and the transmission mounts and the fender mounts and all these other things that don't have threaded holes in them, I'm not going to mess with those, but I will tell you what I am going to do. As I go through it, I'm going to test its continuity to make sure what I was told and what sounds right is actually true. If not, I'll address it. But what I want to talk to you about today is the front of the frame. Okay, so what I wanted to show you first is, if you'll remember in the previous videos where we had to drive these out, these are the bearing cups, and they go into the top of the neck of the motorcycle, and these are our replacements for them. There's one here and one there. They're the same size. Basically what's going to happen is, and this here's the lower stem assembly, this is the stem itself, and what's going to happen is you have these dust caps, and what they do is they go on first, they slide down to the bottom, and then once they're in place at the bottom, your bearing sits on it like that. And then you have your bearing cups that are driven into the frame, and on the bottom, imagine this. Let's see if we can get it on here. That would sit down on the stem like that. This bearing would then slide down over that, and then when all of this would slide up into the neck, it would slide in to one of these bearing cups. And this is what the bottom of your stem looks like. Dust cap on the bottom of the stem assembly, bearing, tapered bearing. See how it looks like a Reese cup? And inside the bearing cup is the race. The new bearing cup does not have a race because it's not been installed yet. So this would sit on here as it did on the other one, and it provides a pivot point. This would turn inside of this. This would be stationary because it would be in the bottom of the neck, but this piece down here would turn with your forks. Makes sense? It'll make more sense when we get it in there. But the new cups do not come with the races. Here is the new bearing. Looks like a Reese cup, maybe like that. Tapered bearing with a tapered race, and it sits in here just like this. Now what we got to do before we can do all this is these bearing cups have to be driven into the top and the bottom of the neck of the motorcycle. These races have to go in here and be pressed or driven in to the bottom. Then once this is like this on the bottom of the neck, pushed into here, then with your new dust cap and your new bearing on the stem, that sits here. The other dust cap or bearing cup will sit here, We'll have to drive these in, we'll have to drive the races in, and then we'll put all this together. We're going to have to pack all of this area of the neck, so when this goes in there like so, it's nice and lubricated. We got to pack the bearings. We have to get a dust cap on the bottom. We've got to get the bearing cups driven into the neck. We've got to get the races driven into the bearing cups. And I'm going to give you a little tech tip. Here it goes, tech tip, flowing out. We're not going to do this tonight. And here's why. I'm going to put these in the freezer. If I had time, if this was like Saturday morning, I would have probably put them in the refrigerator. Yeah, I would have probably put them in the refrigerator last night so I could work on them this morning and let them get really cold. Put a little grease around this, a little grease around the hole, and when steel is cold, it contracts. When it's warm or normal, it expands. So by putting this into the freezer, we would contract it and it would drive in easier. Once we get the top and the bottom of these driven in, we'll have these in the freezer. And then after this is driven in up here, we will take the race and we will put it in. Tech tip, pay attention to this. For goodness sakes, pay attention to this. This bearing will only go into that race one way. That's this way. And it will not even go in backwards like that. This is how the tapered bearing in the race look. This is how it has to go into the bearing cup. Alright? Guess what happens? You screw around and drive this in the wrong way. This is not going to go in. They sell these bearings in sets of twos. They sell these in sets of two. You're not going to drive that race out of that. There's nowhere to do it because it sits inside this lip. Here's the old one. Can you see it sitting in there? There's no way to get that out. So if you put these boys in the wrong way, guess what? New set of bearing cups, new set of bearings and races. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and put the bearing cups and the races into the refrigerator. And we are going to either pack, P-A-C-K, these bearings with grease, or we are going to, yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to put these, 2 each, into the freezer, and we're going to pack these bearings. Everything that we wanted to talk about in this video was running a little bit long. I'm trying to keep these videos somewhere between 10, 15, 25 minutes at the most, and that's what we're going to try to do. So we're going to break this one in half, and we're going to pick up on the other side. So this wraps up the frame back and preparing for big projects tips. So if you've not already watched this video, go ahead and find the links to it. Go back there and look at it. Watch the videos in series. I think it'll be more beneficial to everybody and help you understand what's going on. Also, probably a little pop-up right here. Started a new Facebook page. Facebook is just a better place for me to communicate with you. It inspires conversation because everybody can learn something, and the Facebook or YouTube comments, I don't really like them. It could be a better setup. Facebook gives a better stage for that, because people can tag on to other people's comments and you can search for information and learn stuff like that. So find the page, give it a like, share it if you want to. Remember, it's just a common man's place. It's just a garage. So We're going to wrap this one up and we're going to move on into packing the bearings, getting the bearing cups installed, packing the bearings, getting the races installed, and getting the front forks put back on the bike. So as always, we appreciate you being with us. Look forward to Linda coming back. She's going to make an appearance in the next video. So rate, comment, share. We appreciate you watching, and cut.